At 2:13 in the morning, Maya heard her mother call the name no one else used. Not Maya, the small childhood nickname her mother had spoken when she was sick, frightened, or half asleep in the back seat of the car. Her mother had been dead for 11 months. The apartment was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Rain touched the kitchen window. And from somewhere just behind her, clear enough to make her turn, came that name. For a few seconds, Maya did not feel afraid. She felt recognized. By sunrise, the experience had become a problem she believed she had to solve. One person online told her it was undeniable contact with the dead. Another said that hearing a voice meant she was losing touch with reality. One interpretation made her feel chosen. The other made her feel broken. Both demanded certainty before they had earned it. There is a third way to meet an unusual inner experience. You do not have to mock it. You do not have to worship it. You can take the experience seriously without pretending that the experience explains itself. That distinction may be the most important one in this episode. What happened, what you think it means, what you conclude from it, and what you do next are 4 different things. Maya's report was simple. She heard her childhood nickname while standing alone in her kitchen. Her interpretation was more complex. Perhaps her mother had reached her. Someone else's interpretation was that it must be a symptom. The conclusion remained open. The next action, however, did not have to wait for a cosmic verdict. An experience can be emotionally real, vivid, and life-changing without revealing its cause. Intensity is not the same as accuracy, meaning is not the same as proof, and uncertainty is not the same as disrespect. This matters because unusual experiences are more varied than the 2 loudest explanations allow. A person may sense someone in the room while waking from sleep paralysis. Someone with migraine aura may see flashing light or geometric patterns. Grief can include a vivid sense of presence, a familiar voice, or the feeling that a loved one is near. Sleep loss, fever, medication changes, substances, severe stress, and several medical or neurological conditions can also change perception. Some focal seizures can involve intense déjà vu, fear, unusual smells, tastes, sounds, or a dreamlike shift in awareness. These possibilities are not interchangeable. Mentioning them is not a diagnosis. It is a reminder that the same broad description, such as seeing light or hearing a voice, can arise in very different contexts. The form of an experience does not identify its source by itself. Research also suggests that hallucination-like or perception-like experiences exist on a continuum. They can occur outside a diagnosed psychotic disorder, and many are brief. Bereavement experiences, in particular, may be comforting and meaningful to the person who has them. Treating every unusual perception as proof of illness can silence people who need a calm conversation. Treating every unusual perception as spiritual authority can expose the same people to manipulation, fear, and delayed care. This is where the story turns. The ethical question is not, which label lets me feel certain fastest? It is, what way of interpreting this experience protects truth, dignity, and safety at the same time? Julian Johnson approaches inner experience from within Saint Mat. In The Path of the Masters, he treats reports of inner light, sound, presence, and higher worlds as testimony worth examining. He compares reports across traditions and argues that disciplined inner experience can become a form of knowledge under qualified guidance. That is Johnson's religious framework. It is not a scientific conclusion, and similarity between 2 reports does not prove that they have the same cause. 2 people may both describe light while one is dreaming, another is having migraine aura, another is meditating, and another is using the language of a religious tradition. Similar language is not identical evidence. Still, Johnson's framework contains a useful restraint that dramatic spiritual culture often forgets. He does not make novelty the goal. He places conduct, preparation, discernment, and guidance before spectacle. Read carefully. That suggests a principle broader than his cosmology. An experience should not be judged only by how extraordinary it feels. Ask what it does to honesty, compassion, stability, and ordinary responsibility. If a sign makes you more certain but less accountable, be careful. If a voice tells you that ordinary rules no longer apply, be careful. If an experience becomes a reason to surrender money, secrecy, consent, medications, sleep, relationships, or freedom to leave, the interpretation has become dangerous whether or not the original experience felt sacred. And some experiences need prompt professional attention, not a philosophical debate. If you hear commands to harm yourself or another person, if the experience is rapidly worsening, if you become severely agitated or suddenly confused, if speech stops making sense, or if you cannot care for yourself, seek urgent help. In the United States, call or text 988 for crisis support and call 911 in a life-threatening emergency. Sudden weakness, trouble speaking, acute vision loss, a seizure, a very high fever, or new symptoms after a head injury also require urgent medical evaluation. A spiritual interpretation should never be used to postpone care for a possible neurological or medical emergency. This safety boundary does not insult spiritual life. It protects the person who is having the experience. A truth worth trusting does not need you to neglect your body in order to prove your devotion. So how do you remain open without becoming gullible and grounded without becoming dismissive? Use 4 moves: describe, contextualize, test, and choose. First, describe. Write down what happened before you explain it. What did you see, hear, feel, smell, or sense? How long did it last? Were you awake, falling asleep, waking, grieving, fasting, meditating, ill, or exhausted? What did you know directly, and what did you add afterward? Instead of writing, "My mother visited me," Maya could begin with, "I heard my childhood nickname once in the kitchen at 2:13 in the morning." The first sentence may remain personally meaningful. The second gives her something she can examine. Second, contextualize. What was happening in your body and life? How much had you slept? Had a medication changed? Was there alcohol or another substance involved? Were you under unusual stress? Had you experienced migraine, fever, grief, panic, or a similar event before? Context does not erase meaning. It reduces the chance that longing or fear will become the only investigator. Third, test. Look for patterns without trying to provoke another event. Does it recur in the same situation? Does it affect daily functioning? Can a qualified clinician help rule out a health concern? Can a trusted person hear the full account without pressuring you toward belief or disbelief? If a spiritual teacher is involved, can you question the interpretation freely? A trustworthy guide does not need your panic. Do not intensify meditation, deprive yourself of sleep, force your breathing, stop prescribed treatment, or use substances to make the experience return. Chasing intensity can create more confusion while teaching you less. Fourth, choose. Even when meaning remains uncertain, you can choose the next safe action. Rest, record, ask for support. Make a medical appointment if the experience is new, recurring, distressing, or affecting your functioning. Pause a practice that is destabilizing you. Keep a personally meaningful interpretation in the language of possibility rather than command. Maya eventually wrote one sentence in her notebook. "I do not know what caused it, but it reminded me that I still need tenderness." She did not force herself to call the moment supernatural. She did not force herself to call it meaningless. She slept. She told her sister. She noted when it happened and how exhausted she had been. She decided that if it returned, intensified, or began directing her behavior, she would speak with a health professional. What she protected was not certainty. It was her capacity to remain honest, open, and safe. Perhaps discernment begins there, not with the fastest explanation, but with enough humility to let an experience be important before deciding what universe it proves. Have you ever had an experience that felt meaningful but difficult to interpret? What helped you stay open without giving away your judgment?